Powerful. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Fatine. So I'm supposed to dance, because I'm the performer. But I want to make sure that the mic is right and the stories are right. It's important that the stories are more important than the performance. And listening to these guys, we share so much in common. I didn't really grow up with a dad. I grew up with a stepfather. Although I do love my dad, Peter Andersen. I love him dearly. The only real relationship I've had with a man was someone who was actually not connected to me through blood. He's my stepfather, Chado. Which is great, because as I was listening all day, we were in rehearsal all day, I really didn't know what to do. I was also raised by my mom, so shout out to all the men who were raised by their mothers, And I will share stories about her too. Trust me, she was a father too. And it hit me when I was sitting there. It's like, that's what it was. I was always used to being related to someone who wasn't related to me, and I took them in, like fathers, like mentors. Always. I was raised by a village. I always opened the door to mentorship. I allowed it to happen in my life. The most important thing was listening. So I'm going to tell you a story about my stepfather, and I'm going to keep on telling you stories about my other stepfathers as I started growing up to become a man. Okay? The EMS guy asked me who's my guardian, and before he can call the Bureau of Child Welfare, my stepfather Chado shows up yelling, "That's me!" See, that's my stepfather Chado. He's a self-made thug right out of Bayamon. Black camel hair, goatee with a slim, trim jail belt. After 2 years of being with my real father, Pete, my mother, Millie, got tired of trying out that kinder punk side of love. She couldn't lie to herself anymore. My mother likes that pulling hair, gnashing of the teethy, mandándote pa carajo type love. So when she met Chado at the dope spot buying some manteca and volumes with used car parts, she knew this was the man for her. To tell you the truth, I don't even remember if they dated, because it just seemed like Chado moved in overnight and cared for me and my brother Peter like we were his right and left nut. Most dads teach their children sports, take them to basketball games, fly a kite, but living with Chado, me and Peter were taught the finer things in life, like how to make a pen gun. When defending yourself, always go for the throat. And of course, my favorite game of all, how to strip a car in broad daylight. Chado is the breadwinner of the family, so whatever he does wrong to society feels right on the dinner table. You crazy? I love waking up and finding car parts in the living room, because that meant we were going to Chuck E. Cheese. Chado always takes me and Peter with him to work, so while Millie's in the hospital detoxing, Chado takes us to strip cars. Peter doesn't want to go. He'd rather stay home drawing and reading Thor comic books. Not me. No way. I'm a Goni. So I jump in Chado's Cutlass and we drive over to his favorite spot to steal cars, the Washington Cemetery right under the overpassing F train. There goes his partner in crime, Pito, standing near what seems to be an old, rusted A-Team van. Pito nods at Chado to give him the sight that Bajando's not in sight, which is their term for the police. Chado then throws his half of broken Armatron wristwatch at me. "Okay, Truqui Tru, I want you to time me, okay?" He calls me Truqui Tru after the Spanish version of Barney's son Bam Bam from the Flintstones. So here it is, Tukivitis. First, you're gonna wait in the car, ping, they're gonna start the watch, bang, and después, once I get the traga-laga and the ping, pong, get it on, you don't stop there, stopwatch, you get them breaky light, go blinky, blinky, bueno, con chiflet. You ready, papi? I'm ready, Chado. So he jumps out of his Cutlass, and I set the time at 15 seconds past the minute. Chado slides the Jimmy in between the glass window and the door. I start the timer now. I keep looking up at him and jukes in the car and back down at the watch. By the time I look up again, he's already in the car with the red brake light brightly lit. I look back down at the watch and add up the time right quick when his partner Pito jumps in the driver's seat. "Pito, man, did you see that? It only took him 35 seconds. Yeah, Chado, he's the best. He's my man. So, Pito, why do you and Chado have spots and bruises on your arm? He doesn't answer me. He just stays focused on following Chado. Pito, when I grow up, that's what I'm gonna do. When I grow up, I'm gonna be the best car thief in the world. Pito gives me this, hey, what are you, funny? I'm just gonna go to school, okay? Let me and your papi do this. Chado brings a stolen car to his normal chop shop at Mike's Collision. Chado walks into the mechanic's office. Yes, when he comes out, I'm gonna whack 'em all. With all the tickets I win from skee ball, I'm gonna trade him in for one of those Portland clowns so I could give it to my mother Millie so she can feel better. Hey, Pito, tell him tell him to stop taking so long. Hey, Pito, why you running? Oh, snap, it's the cops. They got Chado. Chado's coming out of the shop with his hands cuffed. Bad timing, bro, bad timing. Chado sits in the back of the police car, which is parked in front of our Cutlass. He turns around to look at me, trying to tell me something through the glass window. Although I can't hear him, I could read his Spanglish lips, and he's shaking his head, saying, "Tu sabe que tu madre, your mother's gonna kill me." And I lip sync back to him, "Don't worry, I won't tell." So that was my first relationship with a man who wasn't biologically related to me. About 3 years later, like Louis, my stepfather died of HIV and AIDS, right? At least back then, that's what we said. That's what we called it, you know. I lost my mother as well. And I also went to prison. This is what happens to our young people in our community when they don't have outlets. I was a harmless kid getting caught up in the streets. And I was still looking for a mentor, a father figure in my life. When I was incarcerated, I was fascinated with staying in the prison cell. I didn't want to step out. I didn't want to be a part of prison culture. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to do my time. As I was doing my time, I noticed that the correction officers had a kind of liking for me because I kind of looked like this. This is not a baby. This is a 14-year-old boy, right? So I always had this look of I had just a baby face. So Officer Brown was my first stepfather outside of my stepfather. And he brought me these great books, the autobiography of Malcolm X. He brought me great anthologies, and I started to read, and I started to teach myself how to read, something I couldn't do when I was home because life was fast. And he also would sneak in fried noodles and lo mein for me because he knew I just liked staying in my cell. And I embraced him like he was a father and a mentor. From there, I learned so much about reading and writing, and I fell so in love with it that I started to find mentors in the poetry scene. One of them happened to be Reggie Gaines, another stepfather of mine. He wrote a show called Bringing the Noise, Bringing the Funk. Took me under the wing. And the most important thing I could have done for him and Officer Brown was be dedicated to their time. When the books came, I read them. When the tasks came, I did them with discipline, overtime. Reggie Gaines came to me and said, in order to be a great poet, you need to learn how to read other poetry. You need to learn how to memorize other poems like musicians do with music. There are too many poets out here who just like to do their own poetry. So I memorized 2 books. And I came back to him, and I memorized his favorite poets' books. In that dedication, he paid me $100 an hour to learn with him. And it wasn't that he paid me so much money. He wanted me to understand how it felt to have a lot of money for a 19-year-old poet, to get paid $100 an hour. He wanted to test me. Learn to have more money. Learn to get paid for what you do. But I was really chasing his career. I wanted that Tony Award, you know? He had it, I wanted it. I liked Reggie's career. I liked his mentorship. And I moved on from there and found another stepfather. The other stepfather I found was during a film I did with an actor named Denzel Washington. And we were working on a film called Inside Man. And I was an actor, and I'd done some work with Spike. And Spike put me in the room with Denzel Washington. And that man is intimidating. His acting is even more intimidating, so I asked him, yo, man, how'd you get so good? I mean, you bad, dog. Like, you do this right. Like, I want to know. I want to do it right. Can you mentor me? He said, no. But I can point you in the right direction. There's an old man at Carnegie Hall. His name is Win Hanman. Find him. And if you're good enough to be in the room, you'll be great. So I went and I met with this man named Win Hanman. And I walked through the door, and he was an 85-year-old man. And I spit a poem written by Reggie Gaines called Please Don't Take My Air Jordans. The old man looked at me. He said, I don't know what to do with poets in this room. This is an acting class. But sit around, learn something. So he took me in. And my dedication again, mentors in the room, and the kids you are mentoring, remind them that when opportunity comes, be worth it. Be worth it. Be worth being in the room. When the door doesn't open, climb through the window. Sit on the couch, wait for the guy to walk through. These are the things I learned. And Win Hanman taught me something. He taught me, like a stepfather, read. Understand what actors are doing. What makes great actors are great plays. So I began learning how to read great plays. The Fervent Years, Clifford Odets, Shakespeare, Bertolt Brecht. And I started to memorize these plays, and I was fascinated with these characters, and I began transitioning from being an actor to a playwright. And I started writing. And then I produced a play at the Public Theater in honor of Win Hanman, who helped me develop it. But the hours that I had to put in with my stepfather, Win Hanman, were rigorous. The man drilled me. I lost a lot of sleep, which I still do to this day, because he gave me these habits. These are conversations I have with my own kids, with my young people, with the actors I mentor and the writers I mentor to this day. It's all about your habits. From there, we moved on, and I began mentoring other young people like Win Hanman. And I don't know if I'm their stepfather, but I talk to them like they're my children. I work hard with them. I put them in the room where it happens. I guess I'm telling you this story because it just kind of came about that I did have fathers in my life, when I only had my mother, really, biologically. But it's so important for us to be there, to mentor, to teach our young people to fight hard, put in them hours, because that's the only thing you can count. You can't count your talent. Everyone's talented. You can't buy time. Your time is everything. Something funny happened last year. Now I'm a high school dropout, right? I applied for Juilliard as a playwright because I wanted to get better. And I got accepted. And I walked into the room thinking about all my stepfathers, all my mentors, but thinking about how I dedicated my time so that I don't insult them. Working with young people has been so fascinating in sharing that. But when I walked in, I went into the Juilliard interview, and they said I was overqualified to be in the room. I just couldn't believe it. They said that they would lose me not because of my talent, but because I'm already in the pipeline. They're trying to graduate people like me. And so I asked them, can I teach here? Because I want to teach young people here. And hopefully that day will happen. They also said they would lose me to television, that's where the playwrights are going. And they were right. My greatest mentor to this day I work with, the man who set me up with Denzel, his name is Spike Lee. I am so grateful for that stepfather in my life. Not because he's Spike Lee, but because he makes me work harder than any other mentor I've had. I hope when you go home today and you speak to your young people, or you mentor young people, or you are a young person looking, I hope you understand that it's all about the ethics. Get up before everyone. Get them 2, 3 o'clock in the morning wake-ups. Wake up before the world starts. Start there. Fight hard. Learn, read, memorize, know it by heart. Keep going for it, because you are only as powerful as your time. Thank you.